Also, look at my Animal Crossing earrings. Hello! Today we're gonna do a video that's a little bit different than some videos I've done before. It's 2022. Happy New Year. And I read 15 books this year, which is very different from last year where I read one book. So I read 15, and I figured since it's 15, I could probably just literally rank all of them in a video and talk about them. And if that sounds like something that you want to do with me, then let's hang out and talk about some books. Yeah, this is the first time I'm doing like a book video. I've done book hauls before, but I've just been really into reading this year, and so if anybody is into reading too, like, let's hang out and talk about books. Okay, book number 15, the bottom of my list. I don't actually have a physical copy of, so I'll throw it up somewhere. But that is You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. I have my list right here, so yeah, Sincero, I think. She wrote You Are a Badass, which was a pretty big, like, viral self-help book a couple years ago, and I was really into budgeting and paying attention to money this year, and I thought this could give me some cool tips, but it was really just not what I was looking for. I actually gave it 1 star. I thought I gave it 2, but I gave it 1. It wasn't it. It was a lot of like, just do that idea you've always had. I was like, what idea? It was a lot of like, be your own boss kind of stuff, and like, oh, you just have to start liking money more. And I mean, I'm not a millionaire, so maybe if a millionaire read this, they would think all of this was great advice. But it was a lot of like mindset about money stuff where I just don't think that if you just start liking money, that money will show up. Like, I'm all about manifesting, but I was hoping for just a little more concrete, like, tips, and I think I just probably read the wrong book for that, but that's number 15. Coming in at 14, The Woman in the Window by AJ Finn. I don't know if people liked this. I feel like it was really highly anticipated, and then I was just super disappointed. The main reason is because I didn't like the end, and I didn't like that it just felt like it was copying Girl on the Train. Like, it was just like, let's do the Girl on the Train, but a little bit different. It felt really flat to me. I thought it would be cool, and I did enjoy reading to figure out what the mystery was, but then when everything like came out, I was just like, no, this isn't it. So I feel like this gets 14 because I was really hoping it would be good, and then it just wasn't what I wanted. 14 and 13 are probably interchangeable now that I'm thinking about it. But yeah, Woman in the Window, not a favorite. Okay, I don't have 13 because I got it from the library, and that is Local Woman Missing by Mary Kubica. I, again, was just disappointed. Like, I feel like a lot of people liked it, and I thought the whole time I was reading it, I was like, ooh, what's happening? This is so interesting. But the end really messed it up for me. And I don't want to get into spoilers, but there was just this one part where I was like, really? And it wasn't even that, like, it was unbelievable. That I was okay with, but there was one part, I don't want to get into spoilers, but I'm trying to figure out how I could say it. There was a part with the cop in the story where I was like, really? Really? So that end was almost more disappointing, but I think I had more fun reading it than I did The Woman in the Window. So that's why that one's ranking a little bit higher, but they're really kind of on the same level for me. Okay, now we're getting into books that were pretty good. They just weren't my favorites. So those last bottom 3 were ones where I was like, no. But now, even at number, 11, 12? Yeah, 12. I'm already saying, like, yeah, these were kind of good. It just wasn't really, like, the most exciting thing ever. So I read Dare to Lead by Brene Brown this year. It was good, but it just wasn't something where in my professional career that I really needed a lot of. I felt like it was suited more for people who are a little bit above me in the professional hierarchy chain. And I liked it, and I think it was valuable information, but it just was kind of like, meh. Also, nonfiction, obviously, so like not something that I would say was meant to be exciting. But I think it set out to do everything it needed to do, just not the right time for me, probably. Okay, and 11 is The Grown Up by Gillian Flynn. I really, really like Gillian Flynn, as I think everybody who enjoys a thriller does. I don't have it in my hands because, again, I read it on my phone, on the Kindle app, and I really love a novella or a short story. It's just like 100 pages. It's like, that's what I can read, that's what I can commit to. And that's what it was. And it was great. I thought it was super interesting. I think I gave it 3 stars overall. And as I'm doing this video, I changed some stuff around because it really was like the first time I had read a lot of books at once and a lot of current releases in the last, 5 years, not like current, but so I didn't change this one. I think I left it at 3 stars. Now looking back, I might have moved it up in my head to like almost 4 because I think the story was really good. It just wasn't like as good, obviously, like it's a ranked list, as good as the other things it wasn't as impactful for me, but it was wild and fun and about a spooky house, and I'm noticing this year that I love a spooky house, so that's why it is where it is on this list. Okay, I just looked at it, what is it? Number 10, top 10 of my reading year is Shadow of a Night by Deborah Harkness. This is the Discovery of Witches series. I loved the first book, and that was actually the book I mentioned that I only read last year. Like, the one book I read last year was Discovery of Witches, and I loved it. Shadow of a Night was good, but it was kind of like hard to get through. Like, these are like 500-page books, and it was cool, the setting was cool, but it just wasn't as good as Discovery of Witches to me, and also not as good as the third one, which is higher up in this list as well. So, solid, but honestly, I was just reading it to complete the series, and if for some reason it was a book by itself, I don't think it would have like stood out to me in any special way. Okay, number 9 is Things Have Gotten Worse by Eric LaRocca. Yeah, LaRocca. This was wild. It was everything I wanted. It like went to a place that I was like, no, don't go there. What could they possibly do next? And it was meant to be grotesque, and it absolutely was, and I loved that because it happened over email exchange and over like IM messages that still kind of like, did this happen? Or is this like just what they were saying they were doing, right? Like, I thought it was so good. I gave it a 3 out of 5 because it just wasn't, it was just like, it was uncomfortable and not in like a very fun way for me. I did read it, the whole thing, in one sitting because I wanted to know what happened, and I could totally see who would love this. Like, there will be people out there that love this. I liked that it was short. I liked that it had this like, is this real or not kind of situation, and it was good, but it just wasn't, it was just almost too gross. It was too gross for me to handle, and that's why it's not higher on this list, but it was still very good, and if you like gross horror, you'll like this. And if you would just like things to just go to places that you are like, will they actually go there? He goes there. It was gross. I don't know how many times I can say that. I gave it 3 stars because it was just too gross, but it absolutely was well written and well done and did exactly what I'm assuming the author wanted to do. So, number 8 is The Only Good Indians by Stephen Graham Jones. This is another horror. I really wanted to just be scared reading this year, and I didn't find this book scary. So I gave it 3 stars. There's probably why, because I thought it would be a lot scarier than it was. But it was still a great story. It's basically about this group of young indigenous men who grow up on a reservation, and it's about the ones that leave, the ones that stay, and this hunting thing that goes wrong and how it kind of like follows them. And I liked it. It was almost like too long. It was one where I ended up getting the audiobook because I just didn't think I would finish it, but if I had it on while I was doing stuff, I would finish it. Like, it was good. It was really good. I just think it wasn't my story. Obviously, I'm not a man, so maybe that was part of the reason why I wasn't resonating with it. I don't love hunting and I don't like basketball, and there was a lot of basketball stuff in there, so I just feel like maybe if there was some different pieces to the story, I might have liked it more, but I really appreciated it for what it was, and I thought it was a really good book. It just wasn't the right book for me. So I want to read more Stephen Graham Jones because I liked his writing and how he got really into his characters' heads. But I wasn't scared, and I wanted to be scared. I thought it was going to be creepier than it was. And obviously, because it's a hunting book, there was a lot of like animal horror, animal harm. Not a lot, like not unnecessary for the story, but it was just like, ooh, I didn't want to read about like dead animals. But like, duh, you can literally see on the cover that that's what's gonna happen. So I think I just was so excited about the idea of this book, and I love the idea of this book, but I didn't enjoy the actual reading experience. I think that sums it up. Number 7 is The Book of Life by Deborah Harkness. This was the final book in the trilogy, that Discovery of Witches series that I was reading, and this 3rd book was so much better than the 2nd book, but the 1st book was still the best. So it was really nice to see it all wrap up. I thought it was great. I thought it was interesting. But again, it was really long, and there were parts where I was like, do we need this? And it was also like, I'm just finishing it because I want to know what happens to these characters, and I don't really care so much about this particular book. But I'm just finishing it to finish it. So it was really good. I had a great time reading it when I did, and I feel like if I had read it at the end of this year, I might have ranked it a little lower just because I read a bunch of other really good books. And this was kind of like the beginning of my reading for fun journey. Like, I read this in the beginning of the year, but it was still great. And the series on, what is it on, Showtime? I don't know. The series, if you want to not read it, but you want to watch it, is exactly like the book so far. What number was that? I gave it 4 stars, and it's number 7. Number 6 is The X Hex by Erin Sterling. I thought this book was so fun. I have not read a romance. Have I? I don't think I had ever read a romance until this book. And there are 2 reasons I think I liked it. The first reason is because the cover is so freaking cute. I don't have it. Oh, I lent it to my friend. My other friend that was reading the Discovery of Witches series. So, adorable cover. Second is I almost thought that the main character was so close to the main character in Discovery of Witches that it almost read to me like Discovery of Witches fan fiction. And so any like holes that this story might have had, I think I was just subconsciously filling in with the Discovery of Witches people. So they felt a little more developed to me than probably other people reading the book. But it was so fun, it was so cute, and I just had a fun time reading it. I read it in like 2 sittings, I think, and it was cute, and it was Halloween, and it just fit all the vibes that I wanted for the day of, you know, the Halloween season, and I just had a fun time, and I think I like romance. That was cool. Number 5 is the other romance I read this year, which I do actually have. It's the Kiss Quotient by Helen Huang. This is famous, everybody loves it, and I had to get on the train and read it with everybody. I love the representation. It was just a little more of a fuller story than the X Hex, so I ranked it a little higher. These characters are really cute. The only thing that I had a hard time with in this book was clearly they were meant for each other, and all the pieces where they're like, no, I didn't believe. Because I'm like, you're obviously perfect and you obviously like each other, so shut up. But then that wouldn't really be a book. I don't think that's a spoiler. That's a very vague. I mean, obviously these 2 people fall in love. It's a romance. Right? Like, we all knew that was going to happen. And there's 2 other books after it, so something going on with these people. So I don't think that's a spoiler, but yeah. It was very cute. I just hit myself. It was very cute. I had a very fun time reading it. And I want to read the next one. Number 4 is Sadie by Courtney Summers. This book was really good. I, like many other women, am a true crime podcast type of person. And the fact that half of this book is a fake podcast with the podcast guy, like, kind of reading like Serial, like the podcast guy going in and helping solve this thing. It was great. I think I gave it 4 stars. Looking back, it could be very close to a 5-star. It just wasn't like my favorite. I wouldn't consider this one of my favorite books. So I didn't want to give it 5 stars. I'm being very, very picky with my 5 stars. But 4 stars to me is just like still a really fantastic book. It has a lot of stuff in it, so think if you are not the kind of person that would want to watch Criminal Minds or watch a Law and Order SVU episode, you would not like this book. Because that's kind of the trigger warning equivalent I would put on it. But it was really good, and if you like a thriller, it was just written in such a fun way. So you read it so fast. There were parts where I was like, I don't care about this part, I just want to go back to the podcast. But I actually did like both sides equally, both stories, Sadie's story and also the podcast story. So fantastic. 4 stars. In my top 5. What did I put it as? Number 4 of the year. So, solid. My 3rd book of the year! I don't have, because I ordered it from the library. But it's Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. It was the book I read right after this, and they both had very similar vibes. Very similar. This was a little more revenge-y than the other one. But Tiffany D. Jackson, I need to read more of what she's written because it was just so good. It was 4 stars for me. 1, because there was a twist at the end I didn't think we needed. I thought the story was doing its own thing very well. All the same kind of trigger warnings as Sadie. And it was a book that, again, was kind of wrong time for me. I wish I had read this book in high school because I would have been obsessed. And it was just so powerful, and it was so good, and you just feel for this girl so hard. And I read it in probably 2 sittings. It is a lot. It is very like I said, SVU kind of trigger warning stuff. So sad. But you're just rooting for her, and she's this little girl, and no one's listening to her, and she still goes on. She's like, fix this thing, fix this. And I'm just yeah, tell them. So number 3 of the year, Monday's Not Coming by Tiffany D. Jackson. Oh, so good. And I think I would have given it 5 stars if I had read it in high school. So it was more of a 4-star because if I had read it earlier, it would have resonated with me harder than I think as like a 27-year-old. Does that make sense? Maybe. It was still so good. So good, so good, so good. Number 2. Number 2 for me is The Girl on the Train by Paula Hawkins. This was a book that I really wanted to read because I knew it was such a big deal when it came out and everybody loved it and it was not spoiled for me in any way. So I had to read it, and I don't want to get into spoilers, but like, I loved the main character of this book. I was just rooting for her really hard. I was like, fuck all these people that don't believe you. You go tell them. And she just doubted herself so deeply because of all the people who doubted her around her, and then you just watch her grow. It was 5 stars for me, and I really liked that main character. And I felt like at the end, so like the opposite of the woman in the window, where I think the end was stupid, I thought the end of The Girl on the Train was perfect. Even if you can guess it. Like, I did totally see what was happening. Like, it wasn't 5 stars for me because I was so shocked by the end. But I don't think that was, like, the total point. It was like, this girl is telling you this thing happened, fucking listen. That's why I liked it. So, that and Monday's Not Coming. Same kind of, like, listen to her. 5 stars. 5 stars. Second favorite book of the year. Okay, my number 1 favorite book of the year, totally unexpected, the last book I read on the 30th of December because I wanted to get to 15 books and I was at 14 books, so I picked one that was short that I thought sounded interesting, and it was, and I freaking loved it. My favorite book that I did not read this year that I read a long time ago is House of Leaves. I love, 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 love that book. By Mark Z. Well, I don't know what his last name is. It's a very popular book. That was my favorite book ever. This book I read this year that is number 1, gave me all the same vibes. Number 1 for my year was A House at the Bottom of a Lake by Josh Malerman. And it was just, like, I guess people call it a horror, but in my head, and I guess House of Leaves is kind of a horror too, but in my head, I'm not reading them because I want to be scared. Like, I wasn't scared. To me, it's just kind of like one of those, I just really like a creepy house, and I love this, like, existential, unexplained mystery that's, like, mystical, but a little eerie. It was perfect. So basically it's about these 2 17-year-olds that are going on a first date, and they become obsessed with a complete house, like a house that is at the bottom of a lake. And that's all I want to say, but that's also really all that happens. Like, oh, it was so good. Like, I didn't want it explained to me any more than it was. I didn't want it. I loved the way it ended. It was just, oh, it was so good. And it gave me all the, like, weird, what is life feelings that House of Leaves gave me. It was perfect. I understand why people love Josh Malerman. I haven't read Bird Box. I did not like the movie. But it might be worth reading because honestly, I feel like the house at the bottom of the lake probably gives me more of what I want than what Bird Box is, because Bird Box is, like, scary, and this one is more just, like, eerie but beautiful. You're like, this is so fascinating, but it's a little creepy because it's so fascinating. I don't know. It was really good. I liked it a lot. And if anybody has book recommendations that give the same vibes as A House at the Bottom of a Lake or House of Leaves, let me know. Also, if House of Leaves scares you, like intimidates you and you don't want to read it, I would suggest reading House at the Bottom of a Lake. And if you like the weird feelings that book provides, it would be worth investing in time of reading House of Leaves. Like, if you like this, then read this kind of thing. But that was my reading year. That was everything I read in 2021. And I'm so excited for 2022 because I'm going to read so much right now. I'm in the middle of this. I thought this was going to be my 15th book, but then I had like half of it left and one day left of the year, basically. And so I went with Josh Mallerman's book instead. This is very good, so I'm thinking this is going to be a top one for 2022, and I'm so excited. Thank you so much for watching. I know my ratings are probably harsh, but I'm also, now that I've just started Goodreads, that's how I keep track of it. Goodreads the app, Goodreads the website. I feel like I'll be adjusting my vote for how many stars all these books are a lot, because I really did just start reading for fun. Like, seriously reading. And so, you know, those kind of ratings can be in flux a little bit, especially as you like start reading books where you're like, oh no, this is what I want. Where like, now that I'm thinking about Sadie, this could totally be 5 stars looking back, but I didn't want to rank it 5 stars yet, just in case I just hadn't found my perfect story yet, right? So like, for some unexplained reasons, this one didn't feel perfect, which is why I only give it 4 stars. But it probably is worthy of 5 stars also. Like, in my head, it's probably 4.75. Yeah, probably. But that's my summary. Thanks so much for watching. Please let me know if you have read any of these. Let me know what your favorite book of the year was. I have so many things that I want to read, and I'm just really excited. 2022, I'm going to be reading some more books, and I just am so happy that also reading is so popular now too, and I get to see all of these lovely recommendations, and it's not just like, hey, this was a classic. You're like, okay, like, these are fun. I don't know. That's all. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.